What's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us. We are live and back at the helm. Made it back in the States with no issues. One beautiful thing about going to Europe is it just makes you yearn for your problems, the American problems, because our problems may be problems, but they're still not as bad as what they got going on over there. So I'm glad to be back. Thankful for the crew that was able to keep the wheels on the bus and that just kept on turning. But we've got some exciting things to introduce and bring about in today's big episode. Will's running the keys because Dougie, he's got to make money, he says. I just don't buy it. But as something that I got to get excited about, I'd like to introduce for the first time, and we got a lot more to come, my co-chair for today and a new introduction to the Rethink Tank family here. It's my good friend, Katerina Brinkhoff. Katerina, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so excited for you to be dragged into the craziness that we have in store for you, not only today, but this think tank that we like to experiment with, and you're going to be a perfect element. So without further ado, Will's running the keys and quite a production assistant. And you know what? No pickle gallery today. No. The jar is closed. Us strong female hands couldn't open the pickle jar today, so we got nobody in the pickle gallery. But without further ado, let's kick off today's episode because we got a lot in store. So today we're going to be starting off our dialogue with the first driverless Semitrucks who have started running regular long routes. And of course, the epicenter of this new evolution comes from Texas. Our second topic of the day is going to be how Brown University's student is facing disciplinary action for asking staff what they do as tuition continues to soar. And then finally, we're going to end the episode with a few ha-has and a little bit of fun by testing Reddit. We're going to be going through some very interesting Am I the Asshole segments. And you know how it always comes out. The answer is yes, you are. But getting into our first topic today, this is a big one, and I feel it's going to bring about a lot of dense conversation. We're talking about driverless semi-trucks. And why this topic stood out to me so much is because if we go back all the way to the 2016 election, around the end of 2015, Andrew Yang was first introduced as a politician in the public sphere. And the thing that he championed the most was universal basic income, something that as somebody that talks a lot, this concept has crippled me because when I talk about universal healthcare, I always want to insert the basic. That's what the comments were yelling at me about when we were talking about universal healthcare a few weeks ago. So I blame the concept of universal basic income. This is the concept that major jobs that make up the majority of the workforce are going to be replaced with automation and AI. And what do we do about these folks? In 2015, the liberal side of the dialogue just kept saying #learn to code. And that, of course, offended a lot of people, especially the people in that sector that are like, I'm a coal miner. I'm definitely not going to become a Silicon Valley software designer. On the flip side of that, it was the first time a lot of the capitalist-minded people were compelled to consider more socialist approaches to our social contract here. And universal basic income would provide people $5,000, $10,000 a month so they could afford just the basics of life, rent, utilities, maybe food. And that way they could focus on more creative endeavors and they could be getting into painting and guitar strumming, whatever the case, whatever gets your rocks off. So that was how this became about. 2015, 2016-ish. Well, here we are a decade later and kind of right on time. It's here in full force. And if they're on the streets running long haul routes, we could tell you that it will be a blink of an eye before this is common practice across the corporate sector. So first, I want to walk down memory lane. Here's Joe Rogan having and I'm talking to you, YouTube, fair use. Fair use. This is a presidential candidate for the first time compelling the consideration of a new policy that the American public hadn't considered before.
For having me.
So, universal basic income. This is what this is all about. My initial knee-jerk reaction was, get the out of here. Like, universal basic income, just going to give people money. They're just going to be lazy. Nothing's ever going to get done. That's a terrible idea. And then I started paying attention to the rise of AI and automation and how many jobs are going to get taken away from. And then once you see the actual numbers, it's pretty staggering.
Yeah, so I've been driven to universal basic income in part because I've been looking at the numbers. The 5 most common jobs in the United States right now are administrative and clerical work, retail and sales, food service and food prep, truck driving and transportation and manufacturing. Those 5 jobs comprise about half of all American jobs. Only 32% of Americans graduate from college. So the average American's a high school grad doing one of these 5 jobs. And if you look at it, technology is already doing a number on each of these jobs. Like the first, administrative and clerical, includes call center workers, and AI is in the process of taking over that job. Retail and sales, 30% of malls are closing in the next 4 years. So the danger here is to think of it as artificial intelligence is coming. It's actually already eating up the most common jobs in our economy, and it's driving Americans into distress in various ways in the numbers.
Are there other alternatives that you've considered other than just universal basic income, like educating people about this being a real issue and perhaps pushing them or directing them towards other occupations?
The truth of it, Joe, is that there are 3.5 million truck drivers in this country right now. It's the most common job in 29 states. And the average trucker is a 49-year-old guy with a high school education, maybe ex-military. So then if you say, hey, I'm going to retrain 500,000 truck drivers, for what exactly is like issue number one?
Right.
And that these guys didn't love school 30 years ago. It's not like driving a truck has made them really excited about the idea.
Yeah.
And then the new job you're training them for, I looked into the data as to how good we were at retraining, let's say, displaced manufacturing workers in the Midwest when we started decimating their jobs. And we're terrible at it. Like, according to independent studies, government-funded retraining programs had a success rate of between 0 and 15% in real life. Like, this is what actually happened to the workers of Michigan and Indiana and Ohio.
I mean, I'm trying to look at this through rose-colored glasses, I guess. I'm trying to think if there's a way that these people can adapt.
People legitimately talk about retraining coal miners to be software engineers. Stuff that on the face of it makes no sense. But the reason why we're stretching for that is because we're looking for some kind of retraining-oriented solution when the numbers show that that's just not going to be the recipe for actual success.
It's kind of preposterous to ask someone who doesn't have an education to do something that's as difficult as code, computer language.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're going to get to a point where AI can do some basic coding at a certain level.
When you're talking about universal basic income, there's 2 questions that come up. How much money and where is it coming from?
So first, I want to say that if you look at the heritage of universal basic income, it's a deeply American idea where Thomas Paine was for it at the founding of the country. And then Martin Luther King was for it. Milton Friedman, the godfather of conservative economists, was for it. And one state has had it in effect for 37 years, where everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked.
That's Alaska?
Yeah, it's Alaska, and they fund it with oil money. And what I'm going around telling people is that technology is the oil of the 21st century. We're spending about $1.5 trillion right now on 126 welfare programs and Social Security. So the $3 trillion actually shrinks a lot very fast because of the fact that about half of Americans are already getting various income support from the government. So the real price tag is closer to about 1.8 trillion if you say everyone who's 18 and up. Now, for context, the entire U.S. economy is now 20 trillion, up 5 trillion in the last 12 years, and the federal budget's 4 trillion. So you're looking at 1.8 trillion. It's a lot of money. We all know that right now most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 57% of Americans can't afford an unexpected $500 bill. So you put $1,000 a month into their hands, it's going to go right back into the economy. They're going to spend it on food, child care, car repairs they've been putting off, the occasional night out. And then all of those businesses end up hiring more people, and then we end up getting some of the money back as tax revenues. We're going to get back, let's call it $400 billion in new tax receipts because everyone's going to be spending more money. We're going to save $100 to $200 billion on things like incarceration.
But don't forget that hyperinflated extra spending is just going to raise the cost of things.
And homelessness services and emergency room healthcare, it's a great incentive to try and stay out of jail because, you stop getting it if you wind up in jail.
How much crime do you think you could actually prevent, though, by giving people $1,000 a month? I mean, I think most of the people that are doing crime, whether it's thievery or assault, they're not thinking this out. This is just either a way of life for them, either, they've got real mental issues or a pattern of behavior that they can't break. I really don't think that $1,000 a month is going to fix any of that.
Well, it's not going to fix all of it, for sure. I mean, we'll still have jails. It's not like, silver bullet.
Yeah.
But at the margins, would it keep like that person who's falling through the cracks and feels like they have no place in society? And maybe they, it's like the people around them are also like.
How does free money get you a place in society? Like, where does it compel motive?
Okay, you don't have any value, and you get $1,000 a month. Maybe like it keeps them off at the margins, and everything we're talking about is at the margins. I mean, everything's like this statistical curve, and you're taking the people who are, let's call it like the last 10 to 20%. But if you reduce our incarcerated population by 10 to 20%, I mean, that's billions and billions of dollars.
How many people have no idea that this is coming?
Well, what I say to people, Joe, is I say, hey, have you noticed stores closing on your main street? And then they say yes. And then I ask them, why is that? And then they reflect for a minute, and then they say, Amazon. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. I'm like the only person just laying out the facts and being like, guys, it's not your imagination. Like, we actually are getting rid of the most common jobs in the U.S. economy, filled by high school graduates, and then replacing them with a handful of jobs for higher skilled people in different places. And then we're pretending that the first population is somehow going to access the new opportunities when the odds of them getting up and like moving to Seattle or whatnot and becoming a web designer or like logistics manager or big data scientist or something, like essentially near zero.
Well, I love the idea, and it would be amazing if you won. I mean, it really would be fascinating. And like I said, I've done a complete 180 on the idea of universal basic.
So at the time, he says, yeah, I've done a 180. Well, he's kind of even abandoned that once again. But before I start pulling it apart, I want to set the bear trap to see if I can get one of them to walk into it. But on its surface, the inquiry of universal basic income, and there was the projection that trucking, manufacturing, these types of jobs will be replaced. Well, now we're here. They are being replaced. I think it was Vivek Ramaswamy was at a mall and there were robots serving ice cream. It's like, guess what? Now even just being the ice cream scooper at the mall has been replaced. So these are people. They're real people, and these real people need to have a role in our society, and we need to create something that makes them, presents opportunities for them to thrive or participate. Those being replaced, is the answer universal basic income? Do you see issues with universal basic income before I start really attacking the argument itself? So I want to get your thoughts. I want to get Will's thoughts. What do you think on its surface as we're kind of living in the dystopian reality that he predicted like 8 years ago?
Yeah, so universal basic income. Yeah, don't believe in that. I don't think, maybe it's, the Eastern European roots and knowing communism, but it's like, I think that we need to remember humanity in all of this. Technology is here to serve us. We are not here to serve technology or be replaced by it. Of course, innovations will always progress how we live, but yeah, I definitely think it's important to keep the humanity at bay, at best interest at all times.
I tried setting the bear trap to see if you'd walk into it, because it's the warm-hearted liberal in all of us. It sounds so sweet and juicy. It's like a teddy bear. You just want to hug it, but then you don't realize it's full of razor blades. Will, what are your thoughts on its surface of kind of the presentation of this new issue, automated trucks, but then also the concept universal basic income that kind of piggybacks with it?
I think Andrew Yang is a dork. I mean, I never bought into it because I just thought the cost of living is going to rise. Everything else is going to increase in cost. I did believe though that we would get technology kind of taking over these low income jobs, these kind of service industry jobs to a certain degree. I don't believe that it's the right way to kind of go about it because I like Katarina's point, like the humanity aspect of it. Like people want to be working, you know, as much as like there's a
At
large
least the people that matter do.
Exactly. It's like there's a portion of people who don't want to, and I'm sure universal basic income sounds very feasible for them. But for like people need to find drive and a want to do things. And I think it
Ooh.
comes from like their job.
You know, I didn't know when this clip would really be called upon. I definitely didn't think it'd be this early in the dialogue. But Will, this is the perfect like nailing of your point.
An income inequality problem in this country. Well, guess what else there is? There's a fucking effort inequality problem in this country. Some people don't put forth as much effort. Does that mean that everybody should work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that. But it does mean that you probably can do more. You can probably work harder or think harder. And if you do that, you will be rewarded.
You'll be rewarded.
And
I
it comes
that.
and it comes back to like that point I made where it's just like Joe made the point, like you don't have to work 10-hour days. There people have found ways to work 3 hours a day and make 6-7 figures a year, you know, but it's like they started off not doing that, but they had to have that drive to do it. And I think if you're giving them, and again, $1,000 is like, again, just like the basic number that they gave. Obviously the margins would like flux depending on like what the current day economy is and kind of like what everybody's at. But when it comes to like these now trucks that like can drive for themselves, it's like, or the ice cream scooper that's scooping its own ice cream. It's like maybe some people find fulfillment out of doing that, and you're just sort of taking it away and looking at them and be like, find something else.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, I mean, so in undergrad, I studied psychology and neuroscience, and for my psychology thesis, one thing that I learned is that purpose is one of the like highest indicators of like satisfaction in life. Like, you know, and people can get purpose out of big things, small things, all in between things, you know, like, and if it's scooping ice cream or if it's driving trucks and, you know, bringing things that Americans need, like, you know, all over the country. Like, I think we need to give credit where it's due, no matter how big or small we may perceive it to be.
Not just that,
go ahead, Will.
not just that, but there are people like instilled in them. They want to provide. If you're taking away their ability to provide, like you're taking away a purpose for them.
Exactly, for survival.
Well, and there's so much strength behind the beautiful like presentation you provided in purpose. That's a perfect catch-all for a greater point. And the truth is, this world struggles with hamsters stuck in the hamster wheel because those self-proclaimed hamsters truly have not found purpose. They don't know their purpose. They're waiting for you to serve it to them. But I do love drinking or I do love fishing. So really just pay me to do that. It's like, well, no. You are still a degenerate and we're just going to fuel your spiral into degeneracy. Like when I sit in this room and we do this presentation for an audience of who? It also doesn't matter because I'm not doing it for you. I've gone through great lengths to work another job to pay for something I'm passionate about. And so, you know, when you listen to the full dialogue that Joe has had this conversation more than enough times because Andrew Yang was the first to present it into his world and he really grasped to it for a while. And it was this concept of if you like to do the guitar, like we should make or you like to paint, we should create a world where you're able to provide for the basic needs and do your passion, your purpose. But also, we need to live in a reality. That reality being, there's not a market big enough for every artist to be a survivable artist. So if you want to be a painter, statistically, there has to be starving artists. Those starving artists are comfortable in their world, in their life, because they're doing that purpose. They're fulfilling that purpose. They're fulfilling the thing that they need. And I feel like when you provide the catch-all, well, the people that aren't willing to die starving, doing the painting, well, they're still going to be painters. Well, you don't want it bad enough. And so we can't live in a world where the whole world is starving artists And the top 5% are the painters we really care about or know about, or the top 5 guitarists are the ones that we care about and know about. If you want this bad enough, it is your purpose. It's where you're supposed to be. Then guess what? Work a lifestyle that pays for that and prove to the world, prove to existence that this is what you're supposed to be doing. I'm up till 3 a.m. doing this, and I'm not getting paid for it. I'm not doing it for anybody else but feeding that purpose.
But one day you will get paid.
Well, because compounding interest.
To do it when you work.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So I feel like the soil that truly provides the environment for the flower to grow is that purpose. Like for you to, if we're sitting here going, well, and you'll do it because you're supposed to be here. Well, you cultivated the soil. You made the world where it had to happen. And I've also, another conversation that's come up plenty of times in Joe Rogan's dialogue is we hear the success stories of the people that have made it. And we're telling ourselves, well, if you just put in the time and you'll inevitably become that goal that you're striving for. And Joe's like, but deep down, statistically, there probably are people that are talented, that did put in their time, committed their whole life to being the painter and never made it. And we just don't hear from them. We only hear the success story. And the success story is I grinded it out and I became the thing. Well, on the flip side of it, it's maybe you think because you put in the time and you wanted it bad enough, you feel as if you should have developed into it. But maybe you aren't the success story because you were never supposed to be. Also, maybe it was just you could have been and just luck didn't strike that way. If you're the individual that put in the time, you never became successful, and at the end of the road, you did podcasting for 40 years and it was to an audience of 5 and it really never went anywhere, you still should end fulfilled. Because you were doing it for no other reason than the love for it. And see, the problem is there's such a far line between hobbies, knitting, fishing, running, and starving arts like graphic design and music and singing, whatever it might be. That, well, these aren't hobbies, these are jobs. People are getting paid to do it, and I want to be one of the ones getting paid to do it. At the same time, it should resonate with your love, your passion, like a hobby. Nobody compelled the 15-year-old to grab the rod, walk the railroad tracks, and I'm spending the day fishing. Nobody compelled them to. No, we're not fishing anymore to feed the family. Now fishing is just a hobby. So that should be your role. And if it does blossom into something great, well, then guess what? You hit the lottery. Good for you. But it is an improbable societal structure to create a world where you can do that with no generative income. You're generating nothing. So, okay, long diatribes, getting lost in the weeds, because I really do think you struck something with purpose being kind of a thread that ties us all together. However, Joe Rogan ends that extensive clip with Andrew Yang going, you got me. I did a 180. Now I'm pro universal basic income. Then he leaves that conversation and he's asking every wise guest that he has, what are your thoughts on this? And he does it long enough to the point where that was 2016. It's not many years later that the world faces a freezing, society halting world pandemic. And it was the pandemic, more than anything, that totally changed his attitude towards universal basic income. It was this position that I thought people would take advantage of these opportunities and grow. But we cannot deny the nature of human beings, which are it's too easy for humans to fall into complacency. I saw so many friends of mine of the equal drive, equal background, went to the same schools as us, whatever. And when they were able to collect a check and stay at home and play video games, I straight up watched the drive to get off that couch just deplete. I saw them in personal relationships. I saw them in cellular relationships. And that experience en masse is what totally changed Joe Rogan's position on this whole political policy.
Super pro universal basic income. And my thought was, if you give people,
I thought it was, I mean, I can only speak from like, this isn't like, a study, but it helped the people I knew where it was like, it didn't, like, they didn't get lazy. They were just like, holy shit,
That's
I can pay
unemployment.
my bills.
That's unemployment.
Yeah.
I'm talking about universal basic income.
Gotcha.
So universal basic income would be that everybody gets a certain amount a month.
Yeah.
Like $1,200.
Yeah.
And the idea is you never have to worry about food. You never have to worry about shelter.
Yeah.
And now you can pursue whatever you want to do.
Right.
Part of me thinks there's going to be a bunch of people that never do anything. They're just going to live off
Probably.
that 12.
Which is fine though, right?
Kind of. But
'Cause
if
if-
that wasn't available to them, would they figure out a path in life? And how many people get tripped up by winning a lottery ticket? Like, don't all of them get tripped up by winning the lottery? Doesn't everybody get tripped up?
It's pretty high, yeah. Unless
So-
you do certain things.
There's a human psychology aspect to giving people free shit that I don't think is beneficial. I just don't think it's beneficial.
And there's something there. And, there's so many clips of Joe talking about this. It's difficult to find the clips of him, like the litany of him bringing up the pandemic and how this experience changed his opinion. But he does the 180.
Oh, it's like, not to cut you off, but like,
Please.
I'm thinking of like, again, like, we know plenty of famous artists over history who were very known at the time, but I always like, the first one that popped in my head was like Edgar Allan Poe, and he like famously died penniless, and he's to this date one of the most famous poets of all time. It's kind of one of those, like, he was just doing it because he was great at it. Literally died a drunk, literally died penniless, like in a ditch, like an unmarked grave. But it's just, he loved to do it. Or
And
whether
we
he
all
loved to
talk
do it,
about him for centuries
or
now.
whether he loved to do it, it was like his calling. So to his detriment or to his betterment, but during his lifetime, it's not like he was like living lavishly. He wasn't being handed like 5 gold coins like every month or whatever currency was
Great
happening
point,
at the time.
because that really does reflect upon some of the most well-known artists that transcends generations.
Yeah.
The folks that have lasted the longest, like, guess what? Socrates, the most referenced philosopher in the consideration of philosophy's inception, he wasn't beloved until 2 generations after him.
Yeah.
It took Plato and Aristotle to then him to really become a pivotal figure in an entire science that is the bedrock of all sciences. So it goes across all spectrums. These are the folks that were doing it for no other reason or purpose other than it was their calling.
Dude, think of the guy who figured out that the earth wasn't flat. Probably got paid no money. Like, not a single dollar.
No,
It's probably,
and the
they
king
probably were
wanted
like,
him
screw
dead.
this guy. They were like,
No.
we hate this guy.
Yeah, that's like that for literally anything.
Right.
Like it's always after your time a lot, or just delayed. Like people be sleeping on you. I'm telling you.
And I also love bringing it full circle to kind of your opening point. You were saying coming from an Eastern European background, like, folks, okay, when I'm in philosophy, I have a philosophy degree. In those courses, they say, hey, we love Marxism. It's got a lot of great points. It just hasn't been implemented right. It's never worked before, but it just hasn't been implemented right. And that is a concept that can only exist in a theoretical classroom, because in reality, you are forced to face the facts. And it is like, what's communism? I make wash machines, you make shoes, and we need each other's stuff. So we all share. Beautiful concept. Until the state is the one that takes it all and redistributes it. And then it's never 100% of what the populace's pool created stays within its pool. No, no, no. Uncle Sam needs to have a little bit of that, because how else do I run this thing? And very quickly, the 10% we're scraping off the top becomes, well, we're getting half because we got to run this thing and we got to live high off the hog. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's not a cliche because it rhymes. Shakespeare didn't write it. Society and its existence hammered it as a truth. So, kind of closing this whole thing out.
Hammer and nail.
Man. And well, you know what? I don't want to get actually too lost from the main topic. Andrew Yang and the Democrats are great at just getting me lost away from the true point or display of what today's topic is, which is a pretty cool point in history. Automated trucks are here. 40% of the labor force is truck drivers. And we're at a pivotal point in human history where what was anticipated and philosophized is officially here. The 40% of the workforce is going to be replaced in the blink of an eye. Self-driving semi-trucks are here. So, as automation replaces many of today's repetitive manual jobs, like assembly line workers, trucking, or cashier roles, new opportunities will arise for less tech-savvy workers, including the grunt workers whose roles are disrupted. Those future jobs will emphasize human skills such as interpersonal connection, practical problem solving, and creativity, which machines can't fully replicate. So here is a revised and expanded list of potential future jobs tailored for non-technical workers with a broader focus beyond climate change to include entertainment, community, personal services, and emerging industries. These roles require minimal tech expertise, rely upon intuitive tools, and offer meaningful work in this automated world. So we can look at community event organizers who plan and run local events like festivals, markets, sports leagues, coordinating vendors, participants, and attendees. We can look at personal space customizers, like people who design and organize their homes or workspaces, rearranging furniture or adding personal touches, guided by simple design templates. Memory curator. This was an interesting concept. And it can assist individuals in preserving personal or family histories through physical scrapbooks, oral storytelling, or community archives. Manual repair specialist. And this is the one that I think would be the most applicable to the specific sector we're talking about. So with the automation of self-driving semi-trucks, what do we do with the major workforce of trucking that makes up the American workforce? These are the folks that can fix everyday items, clothing, furniture, or small appliances in a community where they can join these repair hubs using their hands and tools guided by automated diagnostics. But also, to emphasize the heaviest point, for all of this equipment that's replacing the people, the equipment's going to need the people to maintain it. Like, you're still going to need automotive workers, like your auto shop guy. He's going to be more pivotal in a self-driving trucking industry than ever before. We can look at local delivery liaisons. They handle last mile delivery of goods from automated systems, interacting with customers and ensuring packages reach their destinations. We can have child and family activity coaches. We can have robot interaction aides. These are people whose role is to assist people in using or troubleshooting everyday robots, e.g. home assistants, retail bots, through simple hands-on guidance. Street market storytellers, selling goods or services at pop-up markets while engaging customers with stories, performances, or demonstrations. Caregiving companions. Their role is to provide emotional support and companionship to the elderly, the disabled, the isolated individuals, helping with light tasks and conversation. Come join us at the Rethink Tank. Craft workshop leaders. They're tech hands-on skills like woodworking, knitting, or pottery in community centers focusing on tactile, non-digital creation. Public space hosts where they can welcome and assist visitors in shared spaces like libraries, community centers, and transit hubs. Fitness and wellness guides. Do you want to walk into the Wall-E dystopia we're marching towards? I don't want you to be a big meatball in an automated chair. We could utilize the folks that get your ass moving and keep your legs pumping. Because how many times, Will, have you heard me talk about the folks at work that just one day decided they can't do the steps, and then they definitely now, after 10 years, could never do the steps. They could, one staircase is like Everest to them, and it's because they decided to let it become that. We could have food experience curators, crowd flow managers, pet and animal caretakers, mobile service vendors who can operate mobile units, barber shops, nail salons, repair vans that bring services directly to the customers. Memory space attendants, maintaining and guiding visitors through physical or virtual memory spaces, museums, memorials that preserve stories or artifacts. And finally, neighborhood resource connectors. They can link people with local services, goods, or opportunities. So here's where I give you this long, extensive point and rant about things that we could consider outside of just free money. Why? Because the point is, I think Andrew Yang's missing the greatest point here, which is, yes, a major sector will be replaced. But I do think it is short-sighted to believe this new future is not going to also present new opportunities needing jobs filled. And so guess what? I guess you can't just be a soldier-minded drone that just gets up and waits for the world to think for you. In this world where your drone-minded job has evaporated, I guess now, because you kept telling me you have a creative mind, I got to let you strum the guitar and paint. My response is be creative. Start thinking about where you can find your role in the future. And taking half of my paycheck isn't the answer. Because here's where, going back 8 years ago, before the full scope and perspective of time just totally crushed Andrew Yang's point, I sat there and go, whoa. You want to give me $1,000 a month? Cool. I'm excited because I'm a functioning member of society. Then I sit back and I go, wait. I am making money. And you, the big daddy, you're taking more than $1,000 a month. So wait, you want to take more than $1,000 a month, give me $1,000, but also the asshole who's generating no dollars a month also gets some of my $1,000?
Something does not compute. Something does not compute.
Universal basic income devoids to how about we reward the functioning members of society and we take less from them. Instead of providing more to the losers, let's take less from the givers. That's my position. What are your thoughts on this whole tangent I throw at you?
I mean, I think you just hit the nail on the head, made some really good points there. I don't know. Will,
well,
how
what
about
do you
get
think?
Started first.
I think Andrew Yang tried to buy votes with that $1,000.
He did, dude.
I just feel like $1,000 isn't even enough to even have a conversation. I just feel like they're lowballing. They're trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. They're assuming Americans are dumb. And they're like, take this peanuts and be happy with that. No, how about we forge our own way? How about we work hard for our dreams and make money and, just try our best, to make the American dream as much as possible instead of other people putting us in a box and giving us a limitation. Yeah, it's a handout, but it's it's also kind of putting you in a box and pigeonholing you. It's like if you accept an offer, it's that's going to be that amount. So it's how about not capping yourself and just trying to be the best you can be on your own, with, as best as conditions as possible, hopefully, that the government provides.
I love
Could you
that.
imagine how quick it would be though for like the people that have been dying for universal basic income for the after like a few months of them getting it, they're going to be like, can we have a little bit more?
Always.
Like, you know-
That's how it starts. First, let's get it, then keep asking for
And you
more.
know what? You know what? At that point, if like it got voted and that was like approved, I would be with them. I'd be like, I want $5,000 a month.
Well,
I want 10 grand a
listen,
month.
all this, the buck stops with, I'm not going to stop asking for more until you're giving me more than what you're taking from me.
Mhm.
It comes back to the crux of this whole position, which is you're still taking. Where'd you get that money? I'm going to go back to the beginning. Joe Rogan asked 2 questions. How much money? Where's it coming from?
Good
And
point.
Joe the fugazi smoke and mirrors that the one blue party loves to do is, well, you know, in 1 trillion, 4 trillion, 1.5 trillion, I'm getting it from over here. And then it's like, wait, that was my tax. Shh.
The Democrats literally went, hey, look, Beyonce.
It keeps people dependent, and it keeps them, you know, not self-sufficient, which is ultimately what the government wants. I mean, like at the end of the day, you know, it's like in order to be a free person, that means that more than anything, like as much as you can, that you can, you know, live freely and be self-sufficient to some extent, which, you know, the government is constantly giving us resistance to make that happen, whether it's like water and food supply or like land or like, you know, from any angle you can see it like that.
Oh, 1,000%. So Will is having way too much fun over there dunking on Andrew Yang. And the best way to close out the driverless semi-truck topic, you know, revolving around universal basic income, is here is a podcast that he did following the 2016 election. And it's just funny, you know, Katarina's point being like, it's all just a way to get you lost and confused and be short-sighted in some of the great stuff you're seeing, but also ignoring the true reality. Here, this comment he had following the election is just incredible.
At the time, thought if you got enough Americans behind universal basic income, you would get a universal basic income.
With the money in our hands, it would be the trickle-up economy from our people, families, and communities up. We would spend the money and it would circulate through our regional economies and neighborhoods, creating millions of jobs, making our families stronger and healthier.
And then I grew to conclude that no, like that's not how it works. And so then I went to the next thing, which is like, oh, like we actually have to fix the political system, which is a very, very heavy lift. But a lot of people believed in me, and I'm still working on it. You know what I mean? Like when someone comes up to me on the street, it's like, "Hey, Yang, where's my $1,000?"
What do you say?
I say, "I am working on it."
So I love that his point is, well, what I learned is even when you have everybody's support, it just isn't enough. The mechanism isn't going to let you do it. It's like, no. You know, I do think the rethink tank more than anything, we definitely are up against the machine. We're up against the mechanism.
It's giving Master is blaming his tools.
Yeah, yeah. Because the truth is, as much as I have criticism for the government and the system we're working within, I still do truly believe the bedrock of this is if you get enough of the majority behind you, it's irrefutable. The power is behind you. Hence why they want you fighting about your skin tone and what's between your legs. Because as long as you're fighting each other, you don't have the majority's power. But once you have the majority's power, the system bends at its knees. It beckons to you. So I think he is getting lost in his own hubris. You know, I had everybody's support. The mechanism just didn't know. No. Everybody voted for the orange guy. You're totally ignoring that. You're ignoring that. In fact, they did it 3 times in a row. And you guys are going to get even more pissed that if it happened to present an opportunity to do it a 4th time, they're assholes enough to probably do it. That's the majority you're up against. So one, either try to compel those, the larger number, to believe in you, and then it probably will work. But I also don't want to degrade his point too much, because I don't like the reason that got him there, but I do like the fact that he's redirecting his focus. We do need to fix this system. And guess what? I also think what runs in tandem with that is not telling the unproductive, hey, man, give me the opportunity to continue to pay you to be unproductive. Maybe we need to change the dialogue in compelling them to become productive. Back to the Joe Rogan clip that Will called upon. So my final piece, and I guess let's get to our wrapping thoughts. My wrapping thought is going to be this. One, universal basic income isn't it. As long as you're taking money from some, you just need to take less from them and allow the productive people to be more creative and more involved. Giving $1,000 to the person who will not work is not going to compel a lifestyle that gets them to make rent. They're just going to buy more Jordans. Our eviction docket on a weekly basis proves that as a universal truth. Couldn't make rent, can't feed my kid. Did you see the wall of Jordans? And I'm not picking at a scab. It's our move out bailiff sees that on a weekly basis. That's the world we're dealing with. So my wrapping thought is one, universal basic income is a complete and utter failure. It's for the short-sighted and those without a purpose, those without the drive. Bringing it full circle to the main topic, driverless trucks, they're being rolled out in Texas, and it's going to hit the corporate sector en masse very soon. To me, that's exciting. We got a front row seat to a movie. Very quickly, it'll become the Terminator, and I'm not ready for that chapter. But for right now, when it's comfortable, we just keep getting excited about the new iPhone, the new driverless truck, and how Grok is beating ChatGPT. This is a cool time to be alive, and I think for those that are productive, those that want to be a hand in crafting its future, this is nothing but exciting. And for those that, again, I agree with Andrew Yang. I wasn't a school-driven person. I respect the people that school's not for me because it's a Rothschild project just to get you to be a drone. School isn't here to make you great and to tap into your expertise. It's to beat you into being a drone. So I respect the trucker that's like, schooling was never for me. So maybe we need to shift the dialogue. Maybe we need to try to find a way to resonate with that guy. I'm not an evil liberal. I'm not going to say hashtag learn to code, but I will try to lead the horse to water. I will not have the ability to make you drink, but I'd like to create suggestions and opportunities that could present you with similar jobs akin to what you're used to. Maybe you won't be the truck driver, but you can be the mechanic. Maybe you won't be the sales clerk in a Macy's because online sales are taking over. But maybe you can be a marketing liaison for Amazon, for Macy's, for Louis Vuitton, or just Hanes underwear, whatever it might be. But because jobs are being replaced, it is a ignorant and far from creative lens to also not see the fact that new doors are going to come with it. It's up to you to open them. So, Katerina, any other wrapping thoughts as we close out the topic, and then we'll pass it to Will?
You know what? I just I like how we're gelling here. I feel like we are bringing a lot of good points up into the air, and I'm excited to keep going.
That's right. Will, what are your rapid thoughts?
I think he's a dork. I don't think he's gone to like a local. Andrew Yang talks like he's never been to a local bar and talked to a trucker and said, "Hey, I could get a car to do it by yourself, but I'll give you $1,000 a month just to have that truck driver who probably makes six figures go, what you say to me?" You know, he's never tried to drink one of them under the table and have like an honest conversation with them, and that's why no one took him serious. And I could appreciate him trying to come up with like new ideas and try to like have like an input or anything, but it took Joe Rogan less than 4 years. And Joe was being, by the way, nice on the podcast. Yeah. I don't even think he believed it in the moment, but he was like, "Hey man, I hear you. And it doesn't sound that bad." And then the instant he probably walked out the door and been like, he's out of his mind. Like he has no idea what he's talking about. Now for the self-driving trucks, you brought up Wall-E, and that's literally the first thing I could think of every time. And I think like if you have like a cognitive mind, that is the first thing you think of is Wall-E going forward. It was such a perfect movie for that reason. So, you know, that's my wrapping thought. What do I know?
One thing I want to address, because you raised it and we can't just gloss over it. One thing that didn't season this dialogue enough is because it's a job taken on by the masses, we really do underplay. There is so much money in trucking.
Yes.
Like trucking is
There's
a
six-figure
well over
jobs.
six-figure job. So just for those that don't realize, truckers start off at like easily $90,000 driving someone else's truck. Then these drivers are smart enough to save the money to buy their own truck. Once they own the truck, now they're an independent contractor and they're making six figures plus. Then they start taking that and buying more trucks.
Yep.
So now all the newbie drivers that need to lease a truck, they're leasing it to them. So now they're making money on the leases, and they themselves are an independent contractor, cash right to the pocket. Then you've got some ignoramus who's, in Silicon Valley or in New York City, and they're making millions. And they're like, I could give you $1,000. That's what you're making, right? That's right up your alley. That's within the same realm. And it's like, dude, you clearly aren't talking to these people. You're clearly very removed from the lifestyles they live, because they're not going to settle from that. That surely doesn't fill the void. And your point rests on the fact, well, that's all we can do.
You know what? That's all you can do. They're like one of the most essential people in America. Like how they say the backbone of America. We wouldn't have shit without them. Am I allowed to swear on this show?
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't care, from food to toilet paper to anything. I don't care what, you know what I mean? Like, put some respect on their name, you know?
That's right.
Dude, I'm going to get pissed off if I see now 2 trucks in this country and it's self-driving trucks and Cybertrucks. Like, they just pissed me off. Like, the Cybertruck is just a look. I just think it looks dumb.
At the same time, though, like to Katarina's point, these people are essential. They're also making a lot of money, and they're not right. You're saying, hey, we're going to get rid of you, and to fill the void, I'm going to give you much less than what you're making. At the same time, you're ignoring the bigger point, which is, one, they're not going to settle for that. But also, your point relies upon there not being a new void for them to fill. And if you think those people are going to complacently they're not going to learn to code. That's a fact. But they're definitely not going to just sit around and go, well, Andrew Yang said I'm painting now, so I guess I'm painting. It's like, no, bro. I had $400,000 a year. I'm going to figure out a new way to deliver upon that. Whether it's selling my trucks to Elon Musk to get take it for parts, do what you do. And now I'm investing in, again, I'm not the creative mind because I'm not the one trying to fill that void. Maybe it is a mechanic. That's where my head naturally goes. But also, I'm not living in the future we're talking about. It will take a time and place within the present to determine a creative mind figuring out where's my next role? What's my next step? If you sit by and complacently wait for Daddy Yang to give you cash, baby, you got everything you deserved, because there will be other truck drivers that will never settle for that. And when they soar past you, I don't lose a blink of sleep. That's a you problem. All right, let's get to the next topic. This one's an interesting one, so we can get to the fun at the end, because I think the fun at the end is going to be our most exciting part. The article that's going viral, and I'm going to present it the way they do, because that's going to be part of my dialogue, is these are the title surfing that's going around. A Doge-inspired Brown University student faces disciplinary action for asking staff what they do all day as tuition soars. A sophomore at Brown University is facing disciplinary action after he sent a Doge-like email. I want to make it clear as I continue.
What does that mean?
Department of Government Efficiency.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like the fact. Okay, I'm pointing out that's the part that's inflammatory to me, because let's go through the story here. This has nothing to do with Doge. The only thing that this has to do with Doge, the only nexus between this topic and Doge is accountability for wasted money.
Exactly, accountability.
So A sophomore at Brown University is facing disciplinary action after he sent a Doge-like email to non-faculty employees asking them what they do all day to try to figure out why the Ivy League's tuition has gotten so expensive. Quote, Brown is charging me for misrepresentation for saying I'm affiliated with the Brown Spectator, which I am, because the Brown Spectator is an independent, nonprofit, and non-registered student group, Alex Shea said to Fox News. Brown is also charging me for violating their IT policies for publishing Brown employee data without specifying which provisions of the IT policy I violated. So, this gentleman, Alex Shea, maintains, however, he did not violate any of the IT provisions. During his free weekends in March, Shea went to the common room in his dorm's basement, a space that floods when it rains and requires plastic tarps, despite the school's $90,000 yearly tuition. And he used AI to try and determine what Brown employees did and why the school was so expensive. The sophomore then created a database of 3,805 non-faculty employees who worked at Brown University, and he emailed them asking, what do you do all day? In the inquiry, he said that he identified himself as a journalist for the Brown Spectator, a dormant on-campus libertarian journal that a group of students are planning to relaunch. He formatted his database to identify 3 particular jobs: DEI jobs, redundant jobs, and bullshit jobs.
Wait, scroll up. Is that the kid?
Yeah.
Is it? Look at that absolute.
Look, he is not messing around.
Look at that absolute king.
He is
What
done
a
with your
troll.
bullshit.
Let me share the screen since we.
Yeah, share the screen. Look at this kid. This is
the photo.
That kid's face right there is. I brought the receipts.
Love how
I
he's-
have all
love
the
how he's holding
receipts.
a
Well, and
chainsaw.
can we agree? Ivy League schools, their kryptonite are brilliant Asian students. That's why they're suing Harvard's ass to the sun and back, because DEI discriminates against the brilliant Asians. Ooh, a demographic we didn't plan upon.
Dude, last one was Andrew Yang. He's a dork. This kid, king. King. That's my king right there. That one right there, he's my king.
I just find this hilarious. Like, I love that he's like trolling, but like also like being completely serious. Like, because, you know, I've been in school long enough. You've been in school long enough where you're like, what actually do you do? Why am I actually paying this much? When you actually see the value that students are receiving versus, you know, whether it's the students or the infrastructure of the school that are getting the money. So, very, very good. I love the direction you're going.
I've touched upon this multiple times throughout the series here, and it's the higher up in education you go, the more you see it for the bullshit it is. Like, it takes climbing the ladder to its highest degree for you to see, oh my God, it's all a sham.
And on top of that, it's a union.
Yeah.
Like at the end of it, it's a union. So
they're
they're protected at the same time. So they're being protected and attacked by a troll who's a king.
Right. So Brown, so Shea said he wanted to investigate DEI because President Trump's executive orders and his administration threatening to withhold federal funds to universities with DEI policies. The goal was to get as much data as possible so that his research could be accurate. But only 20 of the 3,805 people emailed responded, and many of those responses were profane and hostile. Shea also said that his social security number was leaked. Quote, Brown is retaliating against me for exposing the exorbitant tuition costs that are going to a bloated bureaucracy, not educating students. He then continued to add, it's not a surprise that the House of Judiciary Committee has opened an investigation into Brown and other Ivy League schools for price fixing and other anti-competitive business practices, such as requiring students to purchase campus housing and meal plans, which may operate at a surplus in order to subsidize the administrative cost. He continued to say, because Brown's because Brown cannot outright punish me for calling out their hypocrisy, they are instead accusing me of committing obscure conduct violations that are not applicable to my situation in order to scare other students from speaking out. In April of this year, April 23rd of 2025, Elon Musk shared his thoughts on this entire story, going, unreal.
Unreal.
In spite of what has been reported publicly, framing this as a free speech issue, it absolutely is not. Brian Clark, Vice President for News and Strategic Campus Communications, said, closing this whole thing out, at the center of Brown's review, there are questions focused on whether improper use of non-public Brown data, non-public data systems, and or targeting of individual employees violated their law or policy. Brown has detailed procedures in place to investigate alleged conduct code violations, resolve them, and implement discipline in instances when students are found responsible, and these will continue to guide our actions. That being said, this seems to be the catch-all to, as Shay said, deter others from following suit, because this is the line of accountability and they're not ready for the reckoning day. And two, to gain control where they had a monopoly. Well, guess what? Through the human hive that is the internet, and now a more awakened public like Mr. Shea or she, who wants to get involved and find accountability, they're reaching and grasping for opportunities to get control back, and it's falling between their fingers.
And you want,
yeah, go ahead,
Alex,
please.
not to cut you off, but you want to know what's also funny is, like, they always say, like, white people and Asians, when they go to like these universities, are usually given the least amount, especially Asians, in terms of like scholarship funding. So, he went to this Ivy League educated school, was Ivy League educated, probably excelled at what he was doing, realized he was hardly getting little to no money compared to like other students that were there, and then probably started looking at the people working there and be like, what's your purpose here?
Bingo.
Why are you working here? And then all he asked was, what's your job title?
Literally all tying back to purpose, people.
Yeah, straight up. And
I mean, and when it,
their purpose was paycheck.
Yeah, the first topic is like, not everything free is good in the long run. It's like all money is not good money. And then in this situation, it's like, all right, you're getting paid that money. Well, then what good do you bring?
Yeah, prove your value.
What is wrong with asking that?
Well, again, it's never a problem when you have a self-proclaimed value. When you sit there and you go, my purpose is, like, whatever you do for your job, sit at home, and what are you getting paid for what paycheck is paying you? When somebody goes, what do you do? If you're even hesitant to say it, your subconscious has totally internalized. You're getting paid what you don't deserve. And if you can show the nexus, the direct line of, I'm getting paid this, and its value is shown here. I make, $20,000 a year. Well, what do? I sell my favorite knitted mittens. Okay, well, then you're probably getting what you deserve. When you're like, yeah, I'm Jeff Bezos and I'm flying people to the moon and back. It's like, okay, you probably should make more than the mittens girl. So when you can't tell me what it is, the first instinct is your value isn't there. And if you're going to sit there and go, well, just trust me. Well, guess what? We've departed the land of just trusting you because we've continued to be taken advantage of, especially in a world where someone like Elon Musk, dude, I was watching, we're gallivanting through Europe, and I gotta make some concessions. I gotta be able to watch some television and networks that appease my sister. And so she's got me watching Love on the Spectrum, which I gotta say was actually kind of fun.
Wait a minute. You went on a European vacation and got talked into Love on the Spectrum by your sister?
Yeah, we were watching it. It happened.
Without power?
Yeah. When in the day, well, I had Allison on the bike just sitting there just to get the TV going so we could watch Tanner get another date. It was great.
You're winding up the windmill.
So
Yeah. So again, I see it. It's enjoyable, but keeping it straight with there was a comment about one of the females going, well, I'm dating so-and-so and he has Asperger's, but we don't acknowledge that diagnosis anymore because of the Nazi. And I looked at my sister, I go, Elon Musk, that's what we're doing now. We're not saying Asperger's because of Elon Musk. She goes, that's what they were talking about. I go, yeah, that's who they were calling the Nazi is Elon Musk. And it's like, okay, if you're going to say we can't acknowledge this guy on the spectrum and this diagnosis because he's a Nazi, well, guess what? That Nazi has done more for society than you and your 50 plush babies on your bed ever will do. So guess what? I guess we've reached a point where we can do without all of you, and we need the one Nazi with Asperger's because he's putting tunnels under the ground to break traffic. He's giving everybody the liberal electric cars you were calling for decades. He's sending people to Mars. He's developing safe and healthy approaches to artificial intelligence. He literally overpaid for the town square and the public dialogue that was Twitter, being controlled by the three-letter agencies and malicious actors. And we're going to totally disregard a diagnosis because one of the most brilliant people to ever live has that diagnosis. My question is, what's the deal with all the other people with Asperger's? Why can't you send us to the Mars? I know, harsh points. It's a harsh way of packaging very real points.
Yeah, man. The am I an asshole is the next segment, man.
Yeah. So, but I want to keep it with the spirit of what's the nexus between this conversation, an Ivy League student that has excelled in his youth to be picked. He was picked by you guys. He was given the golden ticket. The only thing that makes Ivy League schools worth striving for is that they still have a academic monopoly on the workforce.
Yeah.
You aren't getting a better education. As somebody that goes to grad school and is surrounded by people that came from an Ivy League school, and you're going, oh my God, you're bigger idiots than the kids that came from public colleges like myself. When you are a dunce and you're coming out of these places, it's showing the only value going into an Ivy League school is you're getting from the market, you're getting an over projection of your value, and you're also buying into a very, very strong, rich, powerful network.
Yep.
So these are the folks you're bumping shoulders with the alumni and the future greats of our world. So it's a bigger networking thing than anything else. This kid was picked. He was given the golden ticket. And he sat back, weighed the reality, and goes, whoa, there's a problem here. And I'm getting a less value than probably the predecessors and alumni that came before me. And you're charging me more? I want to know where the money's going. And you know what? This comes back to the Shannon Sharp thing.
Ooh.
Shannon Sharp loses, not on the facts, but because you, Shannon Sharp, were willing to pay out way too much, way too soon. That speaks guilt to the public. I'm going to give you $10 million to shut up and go away immediately after the accusation. That tells everybody, you're guilty. So it's one of these, if the first person it's not like you guys tried doxing him by posting his social security number across the world and ruining his life. If that's the case, why? He didn't do that to you guys. He didn't dox anyone. He didn't call for anyone's heads. He did a simple inquiry. And if your response is so hostile and so vicious over a simple inquiry, that makes me think we're picking at the right scab.
Yep.
So, all right, I presented a lot. Will, do you have any thoughts? And then we'll flip it to Katerina.
To quote Katerina, it's giving dunce. That's what it is. I don't know. I think I remember as kids, Ivy League meant something, right? Like you kind of brought it up, but not just like the prestige and kind of like what kind of comes with it, but the education itself. And I think what you've really seen in the past decade, 10 to 15 years, is kind of like like you said, like you went to grad school and you kind of saw like a kind of a bit of a reverse on it. It's more so just kind of like, oh, I could say I went to an Ivy League school rather than I'm a scholarly educated individual. And I think it takes one current scholarly educated individual to basically just ask, hey, what do you do here? Like, that's really, it sounds like all he did was, what do you, and the response is put his social security out there,
Huge.
try to deface this man for everything he's accomplished, which I'm going to assume is probably more than what a lot of these other individuals that graduated from Brown has done. And I don't know. I really hope the best for this kid, because these are these stories where you'll hear like this kid like never was really able to bounce back from because the institution just buried him.
I love that. Karina, do you have any thoughts on
Yeah,
it?
I just feel like that is like such an insane response from them. Like, you know, if anything, that's what you should expect
Encourage,
and
right.
encourage, you know, like a free, intelligent thinker of some kind. But yeah, I think that yeah, there does seem to be like this this notion that everybody should just fall in line, which is actually like the opposite of like the kind of people that, you know, they claim to want to encourage to come there. And so, yeah, I think it's good that we continue to ask questions, you know, and find the answers. And yeah, I'm happy to see all of this. And I think it's very relevant for a lot of Americans. And yeah, I would agree that like, you know, Ivy League, like that means everything has become so diluted is how it feels. That's what I want to say. You know, like, you know, I still see value in like education overall, which some people completely dilute and say, oh, there's none. I still believe in value in education. And I still believe, you know, that you can get benefits, like you said, from having an Ivy League education. But yeah, it's more than anything, even like graduate school at any school or other things these days, unless it's like a certain technical skill or like area you need to gain expertise in, it is a lot of times just for networking that people actually do go to school. And so anyway, I think finding that balance is important in our careers.
One last
Love
thing
that.
I'm going to say about the Ivy League thing, though, is I know of 2 Ivy League individuals that are running a professional sports team, and I think they're awful at their job. So I don't necessarily think that equates to perfection.
Well, and I really want to piggyback off of Katarina's point. This is what a university should be encouraging. Something that we kind of just glossed over that came out of the article is here is a group of aspiring academics that have created their own journal. They have the aspiration to bring about their own positions, bring about the news, become journalists. Go ahead.
As far as I'm concerned, they're doing the scientific method.
Yeah, fix it. Boom, boom. Something that, you know, has become dead in the doctrine of trust the science. But when you are, you know, casking over, he's in this rogue group, this liberal journal. It's like, wait, what's National Lampoon? That was satirical, but that came out of the Ivy League schools. This was a satirical, fun magazine that a bunch of kids made, and now there's documentaries, movies, it was a cultural icon. When you look at things that are look at Microsoft. There are major softwares and major technological advantages that were created from college kids that met at your university, working and grinding it out in their garage. And now you've made something great. It's scary that independent journalism, independent creation, independent just financial entities are a threat to what the university is in comparison to what it used to be. And I think that's part of a symptom of what college has become.
Mm-hmm.
College now, there are so many dunces that are signing up for $200,000 in debt who shouldn't be going to college. But we've created a corporate trap where we trap 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds into $300,000 commitments without the true foresight into knowing that they'll actually be able to pay that off. And so now we're living in the reckoning of all the folks that got their gender study degrees and, acting degrees, and it's not paying off. Oh my God, you're telling me you paid $200,000 to go. I'm talking about my big in my fraternity. We're talking about a guy who paid hundreds of $1,000s to get a theater degree to be a Disney character at Disney. And he's like, man, Disney's just not paying me enough to live like Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. Yeah, you're a loser, dude. You didn't plan. You offer us nothing. If your offer to society is wearing a stuffed animal and hugging my 4-year-old for 2 seconds and posing for a picture, that is nowhere near as valuable as the person that redefined vascular surgeries in hearts. You're a dunce. You're useless. So the fact that universities what were they created as? Its inception was a think tank for higher education. So universities weren't 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds being put in a corporate trap. It was 30-year-olds. It was 40-year-olds that have already lived a full career, and they are further developing that education, continuing to sharpen that blade. So what used to be for older, more mature people to be a stomping ground, as a collective of the meeting of the minds, we all come together and we grow together. The Socratic method, we learn through asking questions and challenging ideas. All of that's dead. Now it's a drone creating factory. You don't think. You come in here to internalize what we tell you to think. And so when I look back at like my public school, I love this guy's asking the questions because I went to Miami University. That is a it's a public school here in Ohio. Their pride, their hubris is that we are the Ivy League of public schools. And it surely felt like that. And no offense to some of my friends, I've visited their schools and everything else. You go to that university, you feel the money. But guess what the problem? Something that just never sat right with me. Something that just always felt like a developing problem. I'm there, and there are new buildings being built every year. Every year, there's multiple giant construction sites. We're redoing all these dorms. We're building a whole new section over here. We have the football stadium, but we're building an indoor Ben Roethlisberger's football stadium right around the cradle of coaches. And I'm like, where are these guys getting this money? It's just millions and millions of dollars being invested in annual projects, constantly growing and developing and building. You want to know why? How do they do this? What's the motive? What's the mechanism and gears keeping this going? If I, as a university, don't spend all of the money that the government gives me this year, I can't ask for more next year. So now there is a motive within the university to just conjure up excuses to spend money. Fuck it. That dorm we built 4 years ago, tear it down. We're building it again. You don't need to. It works. Remember you stuck my ass in a dorm that was 50 years old? Yeah. Well, we're going to rebuild that one. Yep. We're going to rebuild yours, and we're going to rebuild that one that we did 4 years ago too. Just because if I don't spend it all this year, I can't compel for more next year. So when somebody finally sits back and goes, hey, wait a second, can you just kind of explain where all the money's going and make this make sense? And they're like, shut up, or else we're kicking you out of school. We clearly found the problem. And so if the only thing that ties this whole motivating story to Doge is accountability, thank you for in reinsuring the spirit of what we've been saying for 3, 4, 5 months now, which is this is the most important thing the government's doing right now. I do want to point out before we totally depart from my narrative, it is a very creepy truth when they're like, hey guys, we're going to live stream Fort Knox. We're bringing accountability to you. And that just goes dead silent. Like, wait, Trump, you said you were going to take us back to the gold standard. We were going to beat the World Economic Forum and the Fed. We were supposed to go back to the gold standard. Where's the gold? Trust us. Are you going to go? Okay, I guess you're not live streaming it. You're not going to let us see what's in it. Are you going to go? Shut up. We're not going to talk about it anymore. Whoa. I want to go back to what's in Fort Knox. Clearly, so I'm making this point because I don't want to overinflate and just bring in a little bit of David back to the Rethink Tank. It's been too long since I'm not just sitting here looking for a circle jerk. I need to also hold them accountable for where they're falling short. But the spirit of Doge is probably the most beautiful thing to come out of this new administration, which is accountability and just the simple question of, can you tell me what's going on here? Can you explain it? Tell me the why and I'll shut up. And the second you can't tell me the why and you just need to shut me up, we clearly have found the battle worth fighting. Those are my wrapping thoughts. Katerina, what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just feel like, that's like red flag. Like, oh, you don't want to talk about something? Why not? Like, yeah, I mean, just well said. And we'll take it from here.
I love that kid. I think he's onto something. And personally, here's what I think happened in Fort Knox is they all walked in there and they found bricks painted gold.
Bingo.
And they were like, I don't know how to break this one.
Yeah.
I don't know how to break this truth.
I think my take is I think for 100 years, we've been double dipping. We're printing money based on what's in Fort Knox. And then we're also just taking just like 1% of Fort Knox. And then after 100 times, we're like, oh shit, it's just painted bricks now.
Yeah.
It's like, I think you're right, dude.
Yeah.
And you can't prove me otherwise. Just like, again, I'm going to believe we're on a ball, but I'm not going to know we're on a ball until I get in space and I see a ball. Same thing here. I'm not going to believe you that there's anything in Fort Knox until you show me Fort Knox.
Dude, he got like a phone call. Someone went ahead and he like called him up privately and he's just like, so what's the status? And he's just like, it's bricks. He's like, what do you mean it's bricks? He's like, I mean, they painted them gold. You would appreciate that, but they're gone. There's nothing here.
He's like, follow the yellow brick road.
Yeah, like for real. And then he realized he's like, if I tell him it's just a yellow brick road, like, what next?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we have to act like it's there.
So, cheers to you, Mr. Shea. You're fighting the good fight. Yeah, exactly. Cheers.
Absolute king. What him and that chainsaw? Like, what perfect representation. I'm not bringing a hatchet to this. I'm literally revving it up.
F shit up.
Again, you know what? I forgot about that picture. I kind of didn't even make the connection. That is a direct connection to Elon Musk. Elon Musk literally had the chainsaw and was like, we're gonna fix the government. We're checking and accountability.
Dude,
and it's like, okay, now I get the dose comment. It's he really is calling upon it. I guess I gotta renege on that. All right, let's get to the fun topic here. Closing out the show. We're introducing this in today's episode because we have the Rethink Actions, a channel that brings you some fun entertainment, a little break from all the politics and the chaos on Sunday mornings. And while that's a show that you can rely upon Sunday mornings at 11, we're going to be bringing about a new show that's going to be reading the Reddit stories. And I can't tell you for sure if it'll be totally Am I the Asshole stories. I'd like to find some variety, but there's a lot of dialogue that can be had with the fun of picking apart some of these Reddit stories. So in the excitement and the proclamation of getting ready for the double feature coming this Sunday on the Rethink Actions YouTube channel, we're going to be closing out today's episode with 3 really interesting Am I the Asshole questions. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, people will take to Reddit with interesting scenarios and stories and ask Reddit, am I the asshole or am I missing something or are the people involved, are they the assholes? So that being said, I'm going to introduce our first inquiry here. Am I the asshole for demanding to go through my brother-in-law and his girlfriend's bags if they are staying with us? Here's the background. I have a pretty severe dairy allergy. I break out in hives, struggle to breathe, and have to carry 2 EpiPens with me everywhere I go. If I get any dairy in my system, I'll end up in the ER. My in-laws know this and have been extremely accommodating. Since my fiance have started dating 5 years ago, when we had moved in together 2 years ago, we set strict rules for our home because of my allergy. The big one is that no one is allowed to bring anything that contains dairy into our house ever, no matter what. On to the current story. My brother-in-law started dating his girlfriend about 1.5 years ago. They came to visit together for the first time 1 year ago. My fiance made sure that my brother-in-law explained my allergy to his girlfriend and our no dairy rule. 2 days into their stay, she brought dairy products and cooked lunch for herself when we weren't home. I ended up in the ER because of cross-contamination. She apologized and explained she hadn't understood how serious my allergy was. We managed to put the situation behind us since both my fiance and I currently have and want to keep a good relationship with my brother-in-law. The two of them came for a second visit 9 months ago. We had a video call with my brother-in-law and his girlfriend before the trip to make sure she understood the severity of my allergy and how serious we are about the no dairy rule. During their second trip, I was taking out the trash and found candy bar wrappers and an empty milkshake that was in her guest room trash, the room she was staying in. Even after she saw how serious my allergy is and how I ended up in the ER, she still brought dairy into my house. I confronted her when they got back. She and my brother-in-law had a huge fight. My brother-in-law went through her stuff and threw out everything she had with dairy. We kicked out his girlfriend. Ironically, the brother-in-law stayed for the rest of the planned trip. The brother-in-law and his girlfriend worked out the relationship after the trip and are still together. Since their second trip, the brother-in-law has come alone since I don't trust his girlfriend in our house. Well, my brother-in-law is planning a new trip to visit us, and his girlfriend wants to come too. At first, we just said no. We don't trust her. But since we know that this is important to my brother-in-law, we came up with what we believe is a good compromise. She can come and stay at our place, but we will look through her bags every time she comes back to our place. And if she doesn't accept these terms, then she can stay at a hotel or stay home. Now I'm being called an asshole for treating her like a criminal, and checking her bags is an invasion of her privacy. So the question begs, am I the asshole for demanding to go through her bag if she is staying at my house again? Will, what are your thoughts?
This poor bastard. Do I think he's the asshole? No, but wow, I don't think he's an asshole, but what an asshole thing to patrol. Like in general, but it's his house. So I'm going to be like, yeah, he can't be in the house. She sounds, the girlfriend, or not his girlfriend, not his fiance, the other guy's girlfriend. She sounds like a keeper. She sounds exactly like the one you want to bring around. There's literally one rule for the house, and she's continuously broken it.
Milkshake.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's an asshole, but boy, what a bitch of a burden to live with.
Yeah. Well, yeah, seriously, that isn't fun, that you have to worry about breaking out into hives, not being able to breathe, and ending in the ER anytime this happens.
Just a brother-in-law. I'd look at her after the second time and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know how we'd be back together.
Just what are you doing? He is a king for being like, you can go, I'm staying.
Yeah,
he's an absolute king for that. But I mean, what? Like you can't even enjoy a mac and cheese.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, as long as you don't cross contaminate, right? So, I mean, if it's like nowhere nearly possible that she's going to be able to touch it. When I first initially heard this, I was like, that's crazy. Why would you search somebody's bags? Like, how dare you? That's dumb. But then, like this other girl is not like clearly like respecting her boundaries in her own home when it comes to like a serious like, allergic reaction and like health issues. So like I can respect that. Like everybody has a right. But I don't know, like would I check somebody's bags? I mean, I would hope that they could be an adult that you could like ask them like, hey, we good? But like clearly she can't trust her. It's already been like over 2 times or more. And when it's like life threatening or life concerning, if nothing else, then I totally understand that. But no, I mean, I don't think she's an asshole. Kind of like she gave her enough chances, but yeah, I do wonder, how this could be avoided where everybody could coexist in peace and
it's super easy.
You don't have to cook in the kitchen. Yeah, keep your dairy outside, like somewhere, like I don't even know, like I eat it like at a restaurant and then come back home. Like I don't know, get your dairy out in somehow.
In my opinion, the last point he makes is the strongest point, which is she can either accept my rules or don't come or stay at a hotel. Like, yeah, here's the problem. This is the first Am I the Asshole that isn't providing the ages here. And it's like, what are we talking about? 17, 19-year-old? Like, if you're 25, you're old enough, get a hotel. Like, we're not kids anymore. And after you've made 2 murder attempts, it's like, you should be in a hotel. At that point, it'd be like, no, I want you guys to visit. You're just not going to stay at my house. Yeah. I think he's nicer than I ever would be because it'd be like, yo, brother-in-law, we're down. I love you. I'm building that relationship. I want to be companions, just not in my living room. And it's because I gave you a chance and you literally put me in the AR. I feel as if when let me give you a story. I'm allergic to bees. If you remember, Etnies were the cool shoe growing up, and they're these big floppy skater shoes, and the tongue is big, fat, and open, and we're playing kickball at Central School, and a bee flies into my shoe and stung my foot. And I remember running up to the aide, and I'm no. I am cooked. This is going to be a problem. And she's like, go to the nurse's office. And I'm sitting there laying on the bed, and just my windpipe is getting tighter and tighter and tighter.
And then you're thinking to yourself,
foggier and foggier and foggier. And the emergency, once the ER folks got there, like the EMS people, there's like 3 people, and the guy is standing there with an EpiPen. And he's like, Gergat, huh? You don't have an Uncle Mike, do you? And I'm like, dude, what the hell are we doing? And he's like, no, you know Michael Gergat? And I literally couldn't talk. I'm like, and he just stabs my leg, and I'm like, yeah, that's my uncle. It's like, what this short-sighted, narcissistic bimbo is far from acknowledging is it is like I just told you a story of when I was like 12. I'm 31. We're talking about 20 years later, I can put my ass in that seat. So guess what? This isn't fun. And so when you're putting a guy in the hospital, the buck stops there. I don't care if my rule is pat your head 5 times and do a somersault through my front door. That's the rule now. You put my ass in a hospital. But he wasn't even that mean. The first time I get stung by a bee because of you, we're done. And we're going to be friends, and I'll catch you at Dos Coronas for Cinco de Mayo for margaritas, but I certainly am not letting you back in my living room.
You're not invited to the cookout.
Yeah, motherfucker. It's exactly. Invitation revoked. So this guy was even nicer than I would have been by going, all right, I think we made it clear by my medical bill. So I'm going to give her one last chance to be a self-sufficient adult. She forgoes that as well. And it's that extreme cross-contamination. It's not like, she made a cheese sandwich. I came in hours later in the kitchen, made my cereal, my spoon touched the counter, and now I'm cooked.
Dude, all she has to do is order takeout, completely eat it outside of the house. Like, there's so many.
How
like,
bad do you need
you
dairy?
can still eat your dairy. You just can't make it, or like eat it preferably in the house. Like, fucking eat it in the driveway, in the street. I don't care. Like,
And how bad do you need dairy?
Really.
Like, at
this
some point,
she's
it's like,
being spiteful almost.
I think I'm gonna get chicken wings
We're
today.
just immature.
You know, like, guess what? You could have, I was gonna say cereal, but maybe you could use almond milk, like, or just eat the cereal without milk.
Yeah, a couple of days you can't survive.
Exactly. Or again, if you're like, I'm a grown adult, I'm 28, I'm gonna eat what I want. Then get a hotel. You're 28, you're a grown adult. Why are you couch surfing?
Yep.
So to me, you're not the asshole, pal. That's a fact. But I do not believe in making the rule. I'm checking your bags. I'm stepping over the line of privacy that you find to be such a line of sanctity. I'm overstepping that not because I truly think the Gestapo is going to find a sack of cheese in your bag, but you have created a world now where I'm making a message. The message is, you have eradicated all trust. And maybe 3 times of me checking your bag and you being good, like, now we're family. You get married to my brother-in-law, and now we're all family. I see you on Christmas. I see you on Thanksgiving. I've checked your bags the last 2 times you come, and you're like, you want to check my bag? That is like, all right, you're respecting me enough. The message has been received. No, Susan, we're good. We're good. I'm not doing this to be an asshole. I'm doing this to prove a point. I'm not even doing this to find the cheese.
You're doing this to avoid an allergic reaction. There's no ego involved. There could be, but it maybe not. Maybe it's just like simply, I need to know if I'm about to need to go to the hospital or this or that. Like, and I agree. It's like, check it. Do what you need to do. Whatever. Like,
or get a hotel.
Will,
what do you think?
I'm gonna you did it earlier. I'm gonna pull a David real quick and play a devil's advocate. And mine's simply, I'm calling this guy an asshole. Simply, I agree with everything you guys said. But I'm calling him an asshole because you're an asshole for having to ask if you're an asshole about this. Have the self-awareness to be an asshole about it and just be like, no, I'm checking her bag. I'm treating her like a criminal.
Yeah,
good point.
I don't need the internet to back me up on this.
I don't need upvotes on Reddit to know.
Yeah,
you've crossed the line,
exactly.
babe.
Good point.
The instant I read that, I was like, no, you are, dude. You want brownie points from random people on the internet. I don't know what you're actually personally like. You could be an absolute prick in every other aspect of life. But in the scenario he gave, I'm like, no, you're not. But I'm calling you it because you need the internet's validation for your allergy medicine.
So the only thing that I would say in response to that is,
but I still agree with you guys. Like, I don't view him as the asshole in this situation.
Okay.
I'm just simply playing it because
David.
it's like, oh God, make it about me a little bit harder, brother.
Right, yeah. Well, and so I'm totally, leaping at assumptions here and projecting. But if I had to make an assumption here, because he's so clearly not the asshole.
Exactly.
What I could see a lot of these Redditors being is like, I'm on Reddit. I'm somebody that has frequented these chats for a while.
I have frequent fly miles.
I finally have my am I the asshole story. Like, I could see there's a huge following behind these that I could see. If you're a reader of these columns for so long, I could see you being like, oh, you know what? I finally got my am I the asshole, and throwing it out there. But all that being said, I think we're all circling the same drain.
Yeah.
You're totally within your right to do that.
Yeah. I love the point though, when she was just like, they're upset I'm treating her like a criminal. And I was just like, well, I mean, it is funny. It's not like she's bringing in hard drugs. Yeah. Like, it's just, she brought in a gallon of milk and you're like, hey, whoa.
But you know what's crazy is I think the line changes because milk and cheese to you and me is so different. When you bringing in a sheet of Kraft cheese is the same as a couple crumbs of fentanyl, well, then I'm gonna treat you like you're the drug dealer, dude. Like, I'm 100% within my right.
No, he's not an asshole.
Moving on to our second topic or second consideration here Am I the asshole for refusing to speak to my brother's fiance after revealing her parenting methods? My brother Tom, a 34-year-old male, recently got engaged to Melissa, a 32-year-old female, who has a 6-year-old son, Dylan. Last weekend, I, 29-year-old female, was babysitting Dylan while they went out for dinner. Dylan was playing with some toys when he accidentally broke a glass figurine. He immediately started crying and said, "Please don't tell my mom. She'll give me quiet time." And I asked, "What's quiet time?" And Dylan explained that when he misbehaves, Melissa makes him kneel facing the wall for an hour, sometimes longer if he cries or moves. If he speaks, she adds more time. This shocked me, but I kept calm and told him accidents happen. When Tom and Melissa returned, I told Tom privately that Dylan had shared this story with me. Tom defended her, saying, "I don't understand that I, the 29-year-old female, don't understand parenting and that Dylan is just being dramatic." He claimed it is just a timeout and I'm overreacting. I later confronted Melissa directly, telling her I thought her quiet time punishment was excessive and potentially abusive. She completely flipped out, saying I had no right to question her parenting when I don't have kids of my own. She accused me of trying to sabotage their relationship and twisting a child's words. Now, my entire family is divided. My parents think I should apologize for overstepping, while my sister agrees with me that the punishment sounds problematic. Tom is demanding I apologize to Melissa before their wedding. I refuse to apologize for just speaking up about something that seems wrong to me. Heaven forbid they try to make it make sense to her instead. Making a child kneel silently for extended periods doesn't seem like an appropriate discipline. But now I'm uninvited from their wedding and causing family drama. Am I the asshole for refusing to let this go and apologize? Will, what do you think?
I hate these people. I hate everyone involved. This is one of those, how do we do the acronym? FAFO?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what this was. You try to put your input, your 2 cents into something, and it bit you in the ass. I'm not saying you're wrong for it. I'm not saying you're right for it.
Wait, hold on. But if something is truly abusive and wrong, should you not speak up?
It depends on
Yes.
Yeah, of course you should.
But how abusive?
So then the bigger question is, this does boil down to the bigger question. Does this feel as something as abusive or excessive?
I don't believe it does. I don't believe it does. There were moments in my childhood where it was like, no, go in your room, can't talk to anyone.
Wait. But that's so different than physical.
I get that.
It wasn't tied to physical pain and torture.
I get that. Right. And it's like this, but is the kid being tortured or is he just kneeling and just being like, can't talk for an hour?
Kneeling seems like a lot.
And
If you're not
I get
doing
it means like
anything
a lot,
wrong,
but
why
at the
can't
same
you have
time,
a-
at the same time, it's still not his kid.
Yeah.
You know.
Wait. I got something locked in the chamber for that. Go
If
ahead.
you're
What are
not
your
doing
thoughts?
anything wrong, why can't you just have a conversation about it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
it's unsolicited, yeah, but if you're not doing anything wrong, then just respond and be like,
Explain
thanks,
it.
but no thanks, and move on. You can't control if somebody's gonna make a comment.
Well, and again, this comes back to, and you don't have kids kneeling. Okay, the kneeling thing is what makes this, I think,
Yeah, I think
arguably
so.
abusive. And again, because we've all been in timeout. I was the frequent flyer of timeout. My sister had a front row seat of popcorn watching my ass timed out. But here's where I don't have much empathy, because while I don't have kids, I did come from a home that raised a legal scholar and a pharmacist. So I also am not ignorant to what good parenting is, because I saw the production of it. So here's what's convenient and why I find their position to be definitively ignorant. You're going to sit here and take the position that I don't have an idea of what's right and wrong because I don't have kids of my own. I didn't accidentally or purposefully fertilize a seed. So you know better than I do. However, when you want to go gallivant through town, who babysits? Oh, now I'm an expert. Now I'm able to watch your kid. Now I have the wherewithal to manage the situation. So when you need the convenience of my moderate parenting skills, I'm the first person you call for free babysitting, but then you'll very quickly use that same thing. The benefit of me not having kids, their ergo giving you the ability to gallivant through town as I babysit for free or low cost. You're going to use that as a double-edged sword to then stab me in the back? Well, you can't. You obviously don't know. You wouldn't know. You don't have kids. Guess what? At 29 years old, you are frequented this society and this world enough to at least have an opinion. It may not be right, but like Katarina said, a fruitful and healthy dialogue will prove who's the truly right one.
Yeah, and I just like really hate this like argument of like, oh, like you don't have a say, you don't understand because you don't have kids, you're not a parent, you don't have a family. It's like, okay, like even if you don't have an experience, you can still like be logical enough or like have enough like cognition like to imagine and put yourself in somebody else's shoes. I mean, I get it's not the same as like actually, you know, maybe having that, but it's like, yeah, I just that's where it got like where it like immediately lost me when it's like, well, don't tell me how to raise my kids. You don't have kids. It doesn't take like a rocket scientist to know, like, you know,
considering there's morons raising kids.
Like, yeah, exactly.
There's morons raising kids.
I feel like, you know, like people with kids in a family think they have some moral superiority over like single young professionals or older people that just chose not to have kids. It's just like, I don't want to hear that argument. Have a smarter argument.
Boom. So I want to give you a chance to revisit your thoughts, Will.
I still think he's a fucking asshole. and here's the reason why. He himself is refusing to have a conversation also at the end.
Wait, who's the asshole?
The one brother who said,
okay,
they're all like, I view them all as it, because it's like you're uninvited from the wedding, and it's like he even said, he's like, I refuse to have a conversation with the wife and the brother of the parents of the kid. He's like, no, I'm not apologizing. I'm not even talking about it either. It's like, all right, well, you're standing ground on your argument, which you're allowed to do. But for them to look at you and be like, oh, you're not invited to the wedding now. One, they're assholes for that too. So
crazy.
I'm just like all across the board. I was like, but if you really just didn't speak up and decided to just like kind of relax and just kind of be like, hey, I get it. I don't agree, but have the conversation. These are three adults now refusing to have a conversation, and it's dividing a family.
Wait. She's not refusing to have the conversation. She's refusing to apologize because she doesn't feel she did anything wrong.
Right. And it's like, as a parent, she doesn't have to. Like, she doesn't have to at the end of the day. It is her kid. Whether we believe it's right or wrong, she doesn't have to. For him to say, like, oh, I'm refusing to apologize to or even talk to you too, it's like, okay, you're all refusing to have a conversation now over something that seems like what could be trivial and now dividing.
She's not refusing to have a conversation. She's just not apologizing to get her invitation back. The fact that, okay, this comes back to one, the whole Doge conversation we had about Brown University. You're just upset. All I did was go, hey, do you really think this is like a healthy thing? And if it is, can you explain it? If the inquiry is making you reflect upon your problem and your response is, well, you just don't know, you're dead to me. Well, then clearly I might be picking at the right scab. And then doubling down. So one, it's the same like Doge thing. All I did was inquire. And now you're making me out to be the villain. And the only way out is bending the knee. You refuse to have a conversation. Exactly. You won't have a conversation, and you're willing to burn the familial relationship around it entirely. And clearly I might be grounded in something when mom and dad are like, well, you might be right, but don't kill the family over this, apologize. And your sister is like, no, our brother is wrong. Okay, well then I'm looking at the brother going, why won't you have a dialogue? And even more so, if you think I'm so wrong, why is this something we can't get past? All I did was ask the question. I'm not sitting here demanding Dylan be parented in a different way. It's your kid. But at the same time, guess what? Whether you as a mom or a dad feel it's right, objectively, whatever your opinion is doesn't matter. Objectively, right and wrong can totally be outside of that. So Adrian Peterson takes a switch off of a tree, beats his kid silly, and the world goes, that's too much. Guess what? It literally doesn't matter what Adrian Peterson thinks. The objective reality is it's too much. And there is no academia for parenting. So it's not like Adrian Peterson is like, well, Douglas Murray here, I'm an expert in parenting because I had intercourse. It's like, no, there's morons that are parents and there's great parents. And the fact that the only thing you can lean upon is, well, you're not I'm a parent. That gives me the go. It's like, well, and again, we live in a world where we got to keep it on balance. We're letting the kids parent themselves. We're parenting with suggestions. Now, Johnny, do you think that was really appropriate? It's like, okay, that's not effective either. And so I'm not sitting here saying, like, Will, you and I both agree, my ass being sent to the room and being put in timeout worked. It was appropriate. Maybe sometimes it wasn't appropriate, but en masse, it worked and it was appropriate. The thing that really does make this weird is it toes the line of torture when it becomes extended. Listen, dude, my dad beat my ass plenty of times, belt, hand, whatever the case was. And it was directly tied to my momentary lapse or the momentary acting out. And it didn't extend over time. Like my wrestling coach punished us with wall sits. This is a, like, kneeling for over an hour is extensive. And what happens when that 35-year-old now has extensive knee problems? Like, we're overglossing that, like, this isn't just timeout. It's timeout tied to a threat of torture. And even 20 minutes is like, okay, kid, get up and run. Like, you're a kid. But an hour.
Yeah, that's like
is
too much.
Crazy.
Because I do think that, like, like these like physical like avenues or like conduits to a mental goal of getting somebody to just be still, be present, be intentional and mindful about what they may have done or how they currently feel or where they can be in the future. I think that can be positive,
yes.
Like just like how exercise and meditation and all these different things, can like help you get to that point. But yeah, like once you but it's like within measurements, like of things that are like reasonable. Like, again, like if it's like, you're kneeling on rice and you're there for like an hour, then yeah, that's absolutely abuse. But it's also like, yeah, and everybody's going to have a different opinion about what those constraints are,
And I love that. Like, look at the beauty of this kind of round table we got going on here. People are going to have different opinions on what's the best approach, what works, what's a problem. And the fact that you're willing to burn family over, we don't see eye to eye, and all I'm doing is inquiring for maybe a positive explanation. The fact that you're unwilling to makes me feel that there isn't one. And this is you short-circuiting to lashing out because a positive dialogue isn't within your ability or within your purview. I know we're punching. What are you thinking, Will?
I still think he's an asshole. Like at the end of the day,
you say
sure.
He, the brother?
Again, it's
I know.
all
Don't
of them.
say all of them. You just said he's the asshole. Who?
The whoever the narrator was.
So the sister.
Excuse me. Sorry. I'm
right. That's why I'm just trying to get an idea of what your point is.
But again, it's like the sister. I'm going off the background knowledge of just like her writing this paragraph out and like painting herself as like not the asshole. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, like maybe off script, you're actually giving your 2 cents on literally every little thing you can, But again, the kid's kneeling. Like at the end of the day, like I'm not going to sit here and be like the Adrian Peterson thing. It's like, yeah, he's actually beating his kid senseless. I could look at him and be like, probably not the way to go about it. The kid kneeling, it's just like he's a 6-year-old. I see kids run barefoot on rocks and they act like nothing happened.
Well, dude,
I do that at 31.
Chat, literally right before Katarina cited it.
Yeah.
I had friends from Seneca that had to kneel on rice, which is crazy, but can have positive influences. But okay, let's then keep I like your point, Will. But let's then keep it really deeply tied to this story. A 6-year-old breaks a glass figurine and he's in total panic mode. Like the problem is justified parenting. It's not that he stole the candy bar from the supermarket. He did what a 6-year-old would accidentally do.
An adult can accidentally break
and
something.
he's in sheer panic. So it's like, does this go to a further extent that a 6-year-old isn't able to fully articulate? Because here's a kid panicking over something. Like, he didn't punch his aunt in the face and he's like, oh my God, don't tell my mom. It's like, you did what a 6-year-old would naturally accidentally do, and you're in full-blown panic mode.
Yeah, they're literally still learning physics, like, at that point, meaning like how like objects in their space like react to different things and different forces. It's like, yeah, I feel like that it's pretty like extreme. It almost shows like fight or flight. Like, it shows kind of like a red flag almost, like, of how like the child is triggered and like panic. If a simple little thing, it's like, don't cry over a spilled milk thing. Like, there are abusers that will, like, if a kid spills milk or something as simple as that it will be the end of the world, and they will be like fearing that. And so, yeah, but the biggest thing I would say is, regardless of how they decide the outcome of their discrepancy or the predicament they're talking about with the kid, the biggest thing I think is just how petty it is to not invite your flesh and blood, and like, to your wedding. Like, that's the bigger red flag here. It's like, you can have disagreements, but are you going to be that immature that you just like can't handle it and you just have to like cancel somebody or just like cut them off? Like, I don't know. It's just like, good luck with that. Like, starting off your marriage like that with the family, it's like, you're going to have to work through shit. There's worse things that happen in life. Get over it.
But that's why I completely don't believe that this is the only reason she's not invited to the wedding.
I can see that.
So for her to just point this as this is the reason, and then when she puts like their parenting behavior, and it's just like, oh, sweetheart, I forgot you're an angel on this earth, and you've done nothing else to them, your brother and your sister-in-law, but except this one thing, and it completely ruined the whole family. But it's like, again, just going off the narrative facts, I look at the husband and the wife that had the kid, and I'm like, no, they are the asshole. I'm reading this and not fully believing like, oh, that's the one reason you didn't go. That's the only reason you're not going to this wedding.
I like that point, but absent potential speculative facts that aren't present,
right?
The takeaway is, this is a family of 3 siblings. 2 sisters think there's probably something that should be explained here. There's a bit of a red flag. And so I'm just looking at 2/3 majority, 3 siblings that grew up together, love each other, and are a part of a familial structure are going, hey, bro, there is something here.
Yeah.
That makes me feel like there may not be that extra additive part where she was disrupting in more ways. I agree with you, Will. We probably don't have the full extent of this. Maybe she leaves and now she's texting them all the time. Then she's running behind their back and going to the aunt and the uncle like, can you believe they do this? Am I the only one that thinks this is a problem? And she stirred up all this and she left that out of the narrative. That definitely adds to like the strength of their position. However, if the only thing they're asking for is the bending of the knee, apologize. Like, I want you to kiss our toes. That tells me there isn't more to this beyond, we're offended, you questioned us, we are the authority here, and until you respect that you need to shut up and march, then we don't have a relationship. Even though I blindly entrusted you to step in the role as parent in my absence as I gallivanted through town. We got just a couple more here that I just want to hit in the comments. Y'all say he's blind to the...
You know what that word is.
Oh, yeah. It's true. Maybe he the black sheep of the family, and He's sick of their. I mean, it probably.
And that's the thing. It's like, how do we not know the sister that wrote this article also didn't like accidentally like crash their car and not give them any money for it? Like, that's what I mean. It's just like, this is the one thing. And I get the other sister agrees with them, but it's like the sister is going to go with the flesh and blood in this regardless. Like, but again, I don't know. I agree. In this situation, she's not the particular asshole, but I am reading this going like, there's something else there. There's got to be something else there for you to not get invited to the wedding. It's like, this is the only thing you're guilty of. The only thing you got.
That's a good point. And like, Gurgat, you made a good point about like, basically her not being willing to apologize. No matter if you spoke your piece and no matter, if you feel like it was right and it was justified and things like that, you should also like be like flexible enough to like be the bigger person and like apologize for like, I don't know, if not what you said, then like the outcome or the misunderstanding or the result or the reaction that it may have caused, especially if it comes to like, like sometimes like compromise means like, even if you still believe in like your stance, that like you're willing to be like humble enough to like not necessarily like apologize as if you did something wrong, but just be like, hey, like I'm sorry, like let's agree to disagree type thing. Like it doesn't mean like apologizing does not mean that you are admitting fault always. It just means valuing the relationship over your perspective, right?
That.
Yeah, her apology can be simply like, hey, didn't need to add my 2 cents at the end of the day.
Or I didn't mean to disrupt our relationship. I think, Katerina, you making that point makes it triggered an even bigger point in me, which is my theory of this whole thing is that this is getting into the gray. We're not in the clear white clean, this is good. We are in the gray of there might be a bigger problem here. And let's just say, theoretically, there is a bigger problem in the household Dylan is being raised in. Well, you seem to be the only Dylan advocate in this scenario. So does it benefit Dylan that the only Dylan advocate is now completely cut out of the family? Okay. You see a gray area that might alert a problem. Maybe because now you're totally thrown out, baby with the bathwater. Maybe this is your cue to be a little bit of a Trojan horse. Swallow the pride, apologize so I can continue to keep a strong... Now you've alerted me to this. I didn't think there was something wrong with where Dylan was going home to, but now I can be the Trojan horse, the secret sleeper agent that's keeping a damn close eye on what you're doing to my boy Dylan. Because clearly you only inserted yourself because you care. And guess what? If it is in the theory of he is in a dangerous place, that means you're the only one that does care. Grandma and grandpa are willing to turn a blind eye because they don't want familial disruption. Your sister's behind you going, yeah, there probably is a problem here. So now we're left with you are the only advocate left for Dylan. The sister that agrees with you, she ain't throwing herself on the railroad ties. So you're the only one willing to fight this fight. Maybe, and maybe you apologize and you learn, oh, okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, and it falls by the wayside and we move on. But in a world where it is a problem, well, guess what? The only person willing to stand up for Dylan is out of Dylan's life now.
Yeah.
Who does that benefit?
Yeah. It's like you're 29 and you're refusing to just kind of like be like, hey, bygones be bygones. That's kind of the way you could go about it. Instead, you're going to the internet to get points. Like I'm sorry. I'm completely biased against the people who make these posts. Not saying like in all situations, but in most, it's like, if you're going like to Reddit to get brownie points to make yourself feel better, I hope it did, because you yourself are probably a bit of a head case. Not saying she's wrong. Not saying she's not pointing out something that is actually an issue for Dylan. But instead, you pointed out an issue for Dylan and be like, no, I'm just going to completely remove myself indefinitely from this whole familial thing.
Here's the thing. This is like the biggest attracting threads on Reddit. So like, to me, there's like the biggest audience on this app is here because it's entertaining. Like there is an appeal to it. So I have a hard time just like short circuiting to, because you posted on Reddit, it's more likely than not you're guilty, because quite literally that's the audience. Like it works. You've created a whole audience of people that are just here to read these crazy scenarios because they're clearly entertaining. We've been able to conjure up a 20-minute dialogue for each scenario. So clearly there's a lot to unpack. People are attracted to this like soap operas. Like this is daytime TV. This is the Maury show or Jerry Springer. People love drama.
You are the asshole.
Exactly. And we love drama. So it's like, I feel like the fact that the story exists or was presented isn't enough to just devoid the writer every time, because this is like the most attractive thing to the audience, because these are the things we enjoy. We enjoy, like, I don't know any of these people. I just got to spend 30 minutes being a social judge. Like I decree asshole. Like this is fun. And they did that. Every person writing this has done that 100 times and is now with their own little personal scenario. And sometimes they want to see some of the comments, get some advice, get some perspective. But also it's like, I'm a Redditor that loves Am I the Assholes? I got one. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I just feel like this is too attractive en masse to millions for that to be the thing that shuts down their argument. But I do want to point out, you've made a lot of great points that really overshadows and guises this consideration in this scenario, where it's like, there's probably more at play than the author's willing to give us. Yeah. We know as a truth, there's always two sides to every story. So I'd love to hear the other perspective. What if it's Dylan is truly being dramatic? Your brother looks at you and says he's being dramatic. And guess what? He's never on his knees. I told him to sit his ass down and he made it uncomfortable for himself. Like, you know, funny. It's like
he's a secret masochist at 6 years old.
or he's like gaslighting people. He's like trying to make it seem like it's worse than it is. You never know. But let's have the conversation.
That's what I mean. That's why when I see these people make these posts, it's like in the first example, it's like, no, you are the victim. I think your brother-in-law's fiance is trying to secretly kill you. Or it's like in this situation, it's just like, victims are really good at making themselves out to be the victim, but the real victim of the story is Dylan.
That's a true point.
And she's the real victim is Dylan, and she's just like, I'm not invited to the wedding. What's that about? It's just like, maybe you're shoplifting from them or something. I don't know. Did you leave that part out of the paragraph? Maybe you should have added that.
Or maybe there was like a bitch dropped after you were asking like, hey sister, why you doing this, bitch? It's like,
you know, that's why when I read some of these, I'm just like, oh no, you're a saint. You're actually Jesus. You forgot to write that in the paragraph too. I'm actually the best person you've ever met. And Dylan's not the victim. I'm the victim because I can't now go to the wedding. It's like, okay, what are we doing here? But again,
she refuses to apologize too. Yeah. So just freaking apologize, I guess, if you want to get
again. If you want to look out for what's best for Dylan, bend the knee and get back in that kid's life.
I don't know. Maybe try to be a part of Dylan's life. And you said, you're like, no, I'm dying on 6-year-old Dylan's hill. I don't even want to be at that wedding. I didn't even want to go. That was going to be the next paragraph.
Dylan's getting backhanded at the wedding, and you're not even there to see it happen.
Yeah, it's not like she said, like, oh, he said he's going to be kneeling, but I noticed like 4 bruises on his back. Like,
wait,
okay, let's bring that one up.
Hold on. Very traditional lifestyle that produces winners in this world. So I have no problem raising this. But are we going to truly gloss over the fact that these are two assholes that are finally getting married after their kin is 6 years old? Yeah, I'm going back. You guys are the assholes.
I'm just saying, maybe they're all in a trailer.
Yeah, you
like,
make it clear you're trailer people. You're trailer people.
I just.
Oh, we're finally getting married, so our 6-year-old can bring the ring down the aisle.
I don't know. They could.
You can blame
the guy for that one. You should have disinvited me 6 years ago before I knew it was a problem.
Yeah, she forgot to She forgot to add that the wedding is actually just a hootenanny, and that they're all just having a hoedown.
You should have walked down the aisle before the sperm walked through the fallopian tube, dude. How about that? Meet me outside.
Point made. Check and mate. All right. We're going to end this segment with, I think, the juiciest of Am I the Assholes we have prepped for today. So, what's the tagline here? Oh, this one's crazy. Get comfy. Yeah, Katerina, situate yourself. Is this one?
You want me to help read it?
Oh, yeah. You want to read it?
What's the title?
Sure.
Am I the asshole for me?
Am I the asshole for making my daughter leave because my husband is attracted to her? Ew. I, 55-year-old female, have been married to my husband and my daughter's stepdad, 63-year-old male, for 4 years. My 23-year-old daughter and I have a complicated relationship. She has been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. She has a lot of trauma from watching me and my husband's horrible marriage go down and was bullied in school. When she told me she was being bullied by peers, my view that all children are innocents really tied my hands because I told her that if I said anything to them, I would be an adult harassing a child. She has blamed me for that ever since and keeps referring to this one time where the kids at school called her trash due to the fact that she wasn't taking care of her hygiene due to depression. Not all of my response was telling her to take a shower, and I bought her new clothes. The bullying finally ended with an expulsion and a suspension for the ringleaders. She still throws the fact that a school clinic volunteer told her that if she was their kid, she'd have permission to punch back if administrators didn't do anything. I thought that having her live with me while she finishes school and gets a job would help heal some childhood wounds if my second husband and I modeled a healthy relationship. However, my daughter now doesn't get along with my husband. She is very introverted, creative person who likes immersing herself in escapism. So she'd get annoyed if she was sitting eating alone and my husband would sit across from her and eat, saying she ate later so she could eat alone. However, my husband started acting distant from me and my daughter complained that his eyes lingered for too long. She got very angry and there was a lot of shouting and slamming of doors. And finally, my husband admitted he's attracted to her and it's hard to be around her all day. Said she was walking temptation. And said that that's why he was avoiding having sex with me. Double. I was so upset to hear this. I don't blame my daughter for this, but at the same time, the situation has become unbearable. Something would have to give, and I couldn't collect my thoughts with both of them still being in the house. Really? So I gave my daughter money to stay at an extended stay hotel and asked her to utilize her college's emergency financial and housing resources they have for students in need. She responded by storming out and telling my ex, who is now circling social media, using it to paint me as the villain of all villains. I'm not abandoning my daughter. She qualifies for those resources anyway, since my ex is unemployed and we are in substantial debt. I just need time to process the situation, and I don't want to leave my house to stay with my daughter when I have a marriage to figure out whether or not to save. Am I the asshole? You're the dumb bitch, actually.
Unequivocally, yes. Unequivocally, yes. So, okay, there's a couple things here. Do I think a parent's wrong when the school's picking on her and it's like, well, you are gross? It's like, well, why'd you let her get there? And okay, I get that we've now conjured up a ghost-like symptom or diagnosis of depression. It's like, no, you're in a rut. And that's what depression is. Get out the rut. The big thing is, my daughter keeps holding over my head that, some faculty member said to her, if administration were to not do anything, I could punch him in the face. It's like, well, but administration did do something. They got suspended and it was all taken care of. So you got your act together. You do have medical issues. That is a key. You have a disorder, and that's an element here too. However, Mom, there's nothing to sort out here. You don't need to pay to kick your daughter out or tell her we're all dirt poor, we're all hillbilly trash. Go to your school and get them to get you assistance, because I got to figure things out. This is a knee-jerk reaction. You remember what the old days when the doctor would take that rubber mallet, hit your knee, and your leg kicks out? That's what this is. No thought to be had here. Absolute natural instinct. Your husband says, I can't get over your daughter.
Ew.
We're not married anymore. There's nothing to sort out, and you definitely don't need to send your daughter to the streets to figure it
You're
out.
an idiot.
I know. So one, take away this runs parallel to something I exclaim all the time on this show, which is true privilege today is a strong parental household. Doesn't matter what your skin tone is. It matters what's going on at home. So you've got a child that's broken and disruptive because you came from an abusive relationship. You know what makes you fucked up is when you look at your daughter and go, hey, now I got something good and healthy. And what you're calling good and healthy is again slamming doors and yelling. You don't know what healthy is. You are the problem. It's always the parents. When you have a kid that takes a pew-pew and takes it to school, we're done looking at the kids. A decade of this, we need every parent that has that happen to them, if we had them hanging in the town square, this problem would go away immediately because then the parents are finally literally invested in being a parent, or else they don't get to see tomorrow. That's these types of people. These are the people that raise the pew-pew school people, and they go, oh my God, it was always her. She was always you created the problem. There was no problem until you manifested it.
Or they say, I don't know where this came from.
Exactly.
Like, whether it's like your kid doing something dumb or like, you know, like, I don't know where the divorce came from. It came out of nowhere. It's like, nah, dude, come on. You missed something. You missed something along the road.
Will, what do you think of it?
I'm going against Grant. I don't think she's an asshole. I think she needs a TV crew around her.
Reality show TV star.
I think this is a money-making business right here. And I think we need to tap into that industry really, really quickly. All I'm saying, for once, you guys convinced me in the last two. I got to stop looking at these people as the asshole. They're the victim. They are definitely not the asshole in this situation. That mother definitely knows what's best for her daughter.
She doesn't even know what's best for herself.
You know, I appreciate, Will, that you are really embracing the David today. You're choosing to be wrong just for the sake of not being right. And I appreciate that.
I could at least do it tongue in cheek.
Because your exact point was opposite the last point.
I could at least do it tongue in cheek. I know I'm being dumb here. I know I'm being the asshole in this situation.
That's okay.
I completely know what I'm doing.
Somebody's got to be the asshole.
But someone's got to be. We can't all be a circle jerk here, okay? This mother, I think she's onto something. You know, I think the next stepdad is the real winner. I think that's the one she's got to go
Will
find.
isn't wrong. This easily would break the views the Kardashians are bringing.
Oh my God. Like, I got halfway through the first paragraph and I was like, where's the camera? Like, bring it out, dude.
I want an office, like the Office show interview with the dad. Like the daughter's in the back eating cereal and he's like, I just can't. Have you seen her?
Dude, I know. Like, oh my God.
I can't deal with this right now, man.
That's like so disgusting. Like, I can't even believe that she like
that you have to think about it.
That's up for debate. Like, get that motherfucker out of your house like right yesterday. Like,
well, clearly you know how to pick them. You just left an incredibly abusive relationship where the guy's a psychopath, and you're like, this one, he's not a psychopath, but he does drool over my
does
daughter.
Have wet dreams about my
oh my God. My husband won't sleep with me because
that's the worst part.
Exactly.
Ew.
Like
so many red flags.
Where do you think the genes came from? Like, you got to have some resemblance, or you blew up like a house, and he's just like, no. But what?
How could
what a grub?
Here's the thing, though. How could she have really blown up? They've been married for 4 years. Like, it started off like
I think we're talking about a couch dweller that married the cow, right? Like, I think he's probably barely got hair. He's already a degen. What otherwise would have been incel, and he's like, oh my God, did you see the 20-year-old? It's like, this is the closest he's ever been to a 20-year-old that, you know.
In like 20 years.
Yeah. Even then, you know, it's
he can't even disassociate. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, accept that reality. Okay, yeah, people are hot, this or that. You can't even dissociate and be like, okay, let me separate the two. Let me compartmentalize. No.
He didn't separate the two. The mother was like, let's separate the daughter from the situation.
Yeah,
let's get her out of here.
And what kind of like delusion do you have to live in to be like, all right, I got a problem. I love the daughter.
No, it seems
My
like
fix,
arousal.
my solve here is going to be, here's what I'm thinking. I think if I propose it to the mom, she's going to go, oh, all right, here, well, get it out of your system. Like, what did you expect to happen? You're like, hey, I can't do this thing
Cuck queen?
because
Is
I'm
that
just
what?
drooling over your daughter. Like, in what world does this end any other way than like, well, we're not a thing anymore.
Yeah, where do you walk back after that conversation?
And where did you think it was going? Like, this was the grand plan to get what you wanted?
You're gonna watch. The next paragraph would be like, all right, we're going to couples therapy, and my daughter got invited as well. And it's like, let's put us all in a room and have
What
this
is there to
conversation.
figure out? What is there to figure out? It's enough of an insult that a man doesn't want to sleep with you. Excuse me. Second of all, the fact that they're gonna like make creepy comments towards somebody who's underage, like who happens to be your child, like, no, I don't even know what she's thinking at all.
Exactly. And straight bombs down here has
She's
it.
being pathetic. She's not looking out for her daughter, and she's not looking out for herself.
Bingo.
Dude, she's a
That's the
55-year-old
point.
pick me.
Yes. Pick Misha over here.
Yeah.
Pick Misha.
And I like straight bomb's point. It probably already had a record for something along this line, and she believed, he changed. Well, he's telling you he didn't.
She seems desperate.
Boy.
Oh, Katerina, it's giving desperate.
Yes.
Well, I can at least appreciate that at least we're all in one big circle jerk with this topic, all on the same line, which is this person is clearly a creep. Clearly a creep. The husband. Mom should never have kin. Like, you shouldn't be reproducing.
You're
you shouldn't
done.
be in a relationship.
You're done.
We need to put you in a cage. Like, you're obviously not able to operate on your own independently because you've had 2 catastrophic relationships and you're allowing this to negatively impact your poor, desperate daughter again. Well, go to your school. They know that you're poor and desperate. They have enough at their disposal to, feed you and house you as I figure out what I'm going to do about the creep that won't sleep with me as he drools over you.
Dude, this is one of those situations where the 23-year-old daughter is going to show up with like a 54-year-old man.
Exactly. Okay.
Or
you
a
created this, Mom.
semi-automatic. Literally. Which I would rather support.
There's
again,
no in between. This poor girl is stuck in a horrible situation just because the mother just wants to be the pick me in the situation.
Wow. I mean, what an absolute
Do better.
loser. But with this being kind of the strong, there's a lot of juice we're squeezing out of a clear answer. I just want to double back to a point I made in the last scenario, which is, can you see why this is so juicy to people? Like, this is like a gossip column.
Oh,
like,
it's
you're
fun.
just like,
yeah.
Dear
this is
Prudence.
wild. Because again, we live such like structured, normal lives. Like, yeah, we've got some drama in the fringes, but like, this is so far from my orbit. It feels fantastical. This has to be fiction. Nope. There's a person statistically out of 100%. Someone in a tribe of 350 million is experiencing this. And it just makes it so juicy because we're so removed from a life that would reflect this. Like, I don't know what that's like. I couldn't know what that's like.
But again, it comes back to what I said. I was like, the people, like this woman wrote this segment
And was humbled en masse.
and was hoping like people would be like, no, you're all right. It's all good. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to believe everybody who's writing these is like they view themselves as the victim, and it's like, you're not the victim, you're an idiot.
Hilarious thing when like somebody posts something hoping and expecting, being entitled that they're gonna like garner support, and then they are like rudely awakened that they are out of touch. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that is actually like just a poetic justice that I like to see sometimes.
Yes.
It's
I like that.
You thought. You thought.
humbled quickly.
This
No,
generation.
I think it's beautiful. We circled the drain on this one. You're clearly the asshole, and you continue to marry assholes, and your poor daughter is just a victim of being around all these beautiful holes. So,
Jesus.
yeah, you know it.
Wow.
All right. Let's close this baby out. We appreciate everybody that joined us in the comments. We go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Put it on Katerina. Katerina, give the folks an idea of where they can find you if you want to tell them where to follow you and everything else.
You can find me at KatB, KatBee Creative with a K. So KatB Creative on Instagram or other socials, as well as The Serbian Queen.
I love that. So,
And also, if you don't mind, I will mention, just because today is the first time with the show, but I'm also an on-air personality at 100.7 FM WMMS, which is the Buzzard, Cleveland's rock station, the Alan Cox Show. So anyway, happy to be a part of this new podcast.
I love that. And I feel bad for Katerina because we just threw her in the mix with not much time. I promise next week we'll have the beautiful banner already on the screen so you can tell you can know where to find her. She doesn't have to keep spelling it out for you, but be sure to catch it because there's a lot of great content over there and you have a lot of fun with Katerina. So we appreciate her joining the team over here. We also had Will holding down the fort. Now, that all being said, we go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. We also have our reactions channel. Wake up, have a cup of coffee with us on Sundays and get a little bit of a palate cleanser, a break from all the chaos and have some laughs with us. You can find all of these different channels and different shows in one central place, and that's at our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. The whole purpose of the live show is to get you involved, so we appreciate everybody that adds a little bit of perspective to the dynamic here and jumps into the comments because that's what we're doing it for. But otherwise, guys, we appreciate you joining us, and we'll catch you on the next week. Peace.